Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another Stig shift. It's been quite some time, hasn't it? I know, I haven't been around. Sometimes life just hits really hard. Sometimes you gotta pause, take a step back, and reevaluate what's happening. And that's exactly what I had to do. Those of you who stayed, and to those of you who are just new here, I want to express my gratitude to you and for all the kind and loving words that I have seen. And trust me, I'm reading everything. I apologize if I don't respond to every single one of you, but just know that I appreciate you. This episode is going to be quite interesting. Me making a video usually around 1 week or 2 weeks. This video is going to encompass from November all the way up to now. Yeah, I know, we missed Thanksgiving specials, we missed the Christmas special and the New Year's special, but it's okay. I'm going to catch you all up to talk about a variety of things. So without further ado, let's get into this. Our adventure begins. We're going to begin with our beautiful 321 Neo that's rolling in. As usual, the ETOPS check, sending it out to Hawaii. But there was one interesting thing I noticed, which I think I have never talked about. There was a very particular noise coming from one of the engines as I was servicing it. Let's enjoy the roll-in, and then I'll talk about it. Okay, so something interesting. The CFM LEAP 1A, but it's very special. A very particular service bulletin. I want you to listen to this real carefully. Okay, let's pause and talk about it. Did you hear it? That whooshing sound? It's not the engine spooling down. It's not some kind of excess air. It's part of a very unique system. It's called the RBS, Reverse Bleed System. And not all CFM LEAP 1A engines have this. This is a post and pre-service bulletin. CFM LEAP 1A is a very reliable engine. It does have its downfalls as well. It runs hot. That's not a problem for the majority of the components of the engine, but there's one particular component within it that it does affect. It's the fuel nozzles. You see, when the engine is running and fuel is being pumped into the combustion chamber, all is fine. It's when the engine shuts down is where the problem starts happening. These nozzles have a tendency for carbon buildup, better known as coking. There you go, that's what it looks like. The more carbon that builds up around the nozzle, the less efficiency you get. Fuel does not get sprayed out properly. This would cause uneven burn, hot spots within the combustion chamber, as well as damage towards the HPT, the high pressure turbines. How does the manufacturer mitigate this or prevent this from happening? Introducing the RBS system. The reverse bleed system is installed on the right side of the high pressure compressor case and the combustion case between 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock position. Its sole function is to pull air from the outside, or the undercowl they call it, after the engine shuts down. It forces this air through the core. It's using ducting that is coming also from the transient bleed valve. The way it functions is only after the engine shuts down. The reverse bleed valve will take the air from the blower. It will flow into the HP compressor 10th stage bleed ports. Push this colder air over the fuel nozzles to prevent the coking from happening. Now, the interesting part about this is that this is a modification. Originally, this engine did not come with this system. Like I said before, this was a service bulletin. But they realized that we are consistently changing fuel nozzles over and over again, and they understood that this is a problem, hence why they got the fix. This is why I said not all aircraft have this system yet, but pretty much all of them are being upgraded to this level. It takes time to do that though. Okay, that's that. Up next, we're going to talk about the small little fiasco that Airbus had, which everybody made such a big deal about. Small temporary grounding of the Airbus 320 family. The grounding of the 320 fleet was more prominent within the European nations, but within the United States, we had no problem at all. Let me pause it right here because there's not really much visual things I can show you on this, because everything has to do with software. And what was affecting this software, and this is the wild part, solar radiation. It was affecting one of the flight control computers. So somehow, some way, there was a big solar flare that created lots of solar radiation and affected a very particular flight. It was a JetBlue airplane. What it actually caused is sudden altitude drop. The particular system that it affected is called the ELAC. ELAC standing for Elevator Aileron Computer, and there are two of them on this aircraft. It's working alongside two other computers called the SEC and the FAC. SEC being Spoiler Elevator Computer, FAC standing for Flight Augmentation Computer. All these computers are working together for the flight control systems. Remember, this is a fly-by-wire aircraft. Almost no cables involved. All ones and zeros. All data being transferred. That being said, software on these computers are consistently being upgraded. And yes, this is maintenance responsibility. We are the ones who are updating the aircraft systems. Whatever the software that was given to us from the manufacturer, we updated the ELAC system. However they wrote the code, they must have missed some kind of a line of code in there to mitigate some kind of solar flare activity. This is why the JetBlue aircraft had to experience that loss of altitude. Went nose down, basically. But no worries, they recovered. If one of those computers fails, the other one will take over. Pilots also have the capability of disengaging those computers and fly the aircraft in more of a direct manual mode. I talked about this a very long time ago of the laws of Airbus, of how they put it. The normal law, alternate law, and direct law. So now, what was the fix? As simple as it sounds, you downgrade the system back to its previous software. And that's exactly what we did. The process takes no longer than 30 minutes. Matter of fact, as soon as we got wind of this, we were doing this right on the line on live aircraft that were turning. It had longer than 30 minutes ground time, we were downgrading the software. Any aircraft that stayed overnight, we downgraded the software. So we did not get much grounded airplanes. On our side, we did not even see the effect of this. Maybe a few delays here and there, but not a big deal. You know how media works. Everybody wants to scare everybody. Airbus fleet grounded throughout the world. And us mechanics are just kind of standing around looking at each other. Yeah, nothing is grounded. We're still flying. The hilarious part I found in this is all the Boeing fans kind of like sigh of relief of saying, oh, thank God it's not Boeing. I'm not saying that in a rude way, by the way. It was just funny to me. Boeing has been catching lots of flack for everything lately. And afterwards is we wait for the manufacturer of that particular computer to upgrade their software and put the correct lines of code in there. And then we upgrade the aircraft back to its current or most current software. That's it. Okay, enough of that. Let's go play around with a captain seatbelt harness. This was interesting. Here's something funny for you. So, seatbelt harnesses, right? So let's lift this up. Look, the retainer, see that piece of plastic? It's missing in here. So if this thing goes too far, it'll sink in. Look at this. How much you have to do just to get to this part. Put that there. Let's see. Next, you gotta take this off. Because you don't, it's gonna cover the little screw that you gotta take off here. Next, you gotta take the screw off to loosen this whole bracket, and this one's got to come out. Why am I doing this, by the way? Watch this. So in order for this to get in here, first of all, you got to slip this on. Just like this, right? Slip this on. But watch. You can't get it through. So you got to take the whole bracket off in order to get these pegs in so it doesn't slosh back and forth. That's how it's designed. See? That's how this one is like this. So yeah, I'm going to take this off, got to take that off, lift this up so I can get this in there. Yeah, that's all that for that. Funny. Forgot there was one more screw underneath the Velcro. Okay, watch. Slightly lift, close, tighten down. There. All just for that. Just for that. Thank you, engineer. No, I'm just joking. It is what it is. All right, let's put this back and resecure the other two fasteners. Put the headrest clips in, the headrest, and we're done. I'll clean this all up. Easy. I try to read as much as I can and educate myself, not only throughout aircraft maintenance, but as well as through life. I remember 2 quotes the other day. I can't remember who said them. One was, change the way you look at things, and things you look at change. The other one was even more impactful. I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept. It's interesting how life works. You'd think you'd get the lesson first before the test, right? No, it's the complete opposite. In life, the test always comes before the lesson. Food for thought. Wish life was as easy as airplanes. Any case, let's start this up. November had wrapped up. We went through Thanksgiving, the holiday seasons. December was upon us. The schedule was dying down a bit. Lots of reallocation of manpower, people being shifted around from the line to the hangar. I was lucky enough I had enough seniority to maintain the shift that I'm on. Even managed to hold on to the same days off. If you work in an airline environment, seniority means everything. Puts you in the slots and the brackets and the capability of moving around and doing what you want to do with your schedule. Also along with your vacation bids and all these other things. Overall, you need to be very flexible when you're joining the airline industry. Just because I make it sound easy here doesn't mean it's really easy in real life. So the weeks went uneventful, just doing my job, the regular routine. Forgive me if I don't talk much. Welcome back. Look at it. Bye-bye Terminal 5. They're chopping that thing up. Look at that. That's nuts. Yeah, quicker than I thought they were going to do it. It's turning into an incoherent post, isn't it? Just random images here and there, literally just sharing everything that I recorded with you guys. It's okay, the next one's gonna be fun. We're gonna have to change out a toilet. ATA Chapter 38, Water and Waste. Doesn't matter how much seniority you have, that always finds you. Let's go, that's gonna be fun. Not. So here we go, got the shroud off and I put a plastic bag, put the gloves on. Problem here was that the toilet was not flushing at all. Even with differential pressure, the toilet still would not flush. I think the flush valve was stuck. Now, why is this such a high priority item? Well, this is the first class toilet. Remember, it's not just the passengers that use this, it's also the pilots. A pilot can refuse an aircraft if that toilet is not working. Imagine if it's a 5 or 6 hour flight. Pilots are not going to walk out and go to the back of the airplane to use restroom. They need this functioning. Luckily, we had the parts in stock. We had a bit of ground time. Honestly, on this one, we did eat the delay, but we did get it changed out. What I was showing earlier is all the hardware that I have to take apart in order to get this toilet out of its place. This is the main pipe that actually, takes the waste into the waste tank. And I tell you what, it smells god-awful as soon as that popped off. Oh yeah, you can just... be thankful there's no smell-o-vision. All right, up next, we gotta take off the water line because remember, it uses aircraft water to rinse out the toilet. We had already shut off the water main line, but remember, there's still residual water within the pipe. But it's okay, this is why I put down the paper towels. I'm gonna clean all this up later on. Alrighty, can plug disconnected. So now we got left is 4 fasteners. Right, one there, and down there. So yeah, it's a little water, don't worry, that's from the water line, from the flush system. I'll clean all this up when we get done. But yeah, some insulation, we'll fix all that up, and once we get the new part, easy peasy. How's your day going? And a couple of bonding wires. Almost out. Yeah. Everything installed. Water line, can plug.
There you go.
There you go. It's not a hard job, guys. It's just sometimes it's a bit unpleasant. It is what it is. Moving on, we got a brand new airplane, the Airbus A321 XLR. Most people looking at the XLR are looking at its features and saying, oh, it just looks like another Neo, right? It's not, guys. It's nothing like a Neo. It is a very completely different aircraft, trust me, and we are going to go over the differences. Everything from different seat configuration, flap configuration, where the doors should be or used to be, landing gear, certain flight controls, Heck, the thing has its own tow bar. I'm telling you, it is not a regular 321. Currently, we have two of them that are actively flying, Aircraft 303 and Aircraft 305. Obviously more on the way. The routes currently from LAX are LAX to JFK. Back and forth, back and forth. I believe late in March, they're going to open up more routes, especially the international routes out of JFK. Mistaken, I believe it's going to go from JFK to Edinburgh. That's going to happen in March. Worked a couple of wide bodies back to the narrow bodies, another ETOPS sending it out to Hawaii. And one interesting differentiation between the XLR and the regular 321s is that the tires and brakes are not interchangeable. And I promise you, we're going to go deep dive. I'm going to mention this again, but it's kind of funny how they did it because now our stores department has to write down on the tire, do not install on XLR. Why? Because it's not going to fit. Well, it will fit, but it will wobble. So that's a huge distinction right there. Same thing for the brakes. Speaking of tires, we had another tire change on a different airplane. Here we go. As usual, you guys seen a million of these, but I recorded it anyway. Can we guess what we're doing today? Yeah, you don't have to guess. I'll show you. See me spinning right here is the tachometer and as well as the brake fan motor. Why is this important? For anti-skid purposes. It needs to know how fast the wheel is spinning in order to apply the anti-skid, or better term for this is anti-lock brakes. For all of you wondering, yes, the aircraft has auto brake feature, but pilots can also apply manual brakes. Apologize, but this is all I got to capture, not even getting the whole wheel off. I just got the final result. Here you go. But don't worry, we got another tire change the next day as well, so I recorded a little bit more, so you'll see it getting taken off. All right, let's do this. Look at the differences between the XLR and the 321 and the 321 Neo. First thing that you're going to notice is on the nose landing gear. You see what's missing? The takeoff light, the taxi light, and the runway turnoff lights. Here's a good comparison. This is a regular 321 Neo, and look at the nose landing gear, and look where the lights are. Okay, now let's go back to the XLR. Now you'll see the difference. You're going to ask yourself, well, where do they put them? In the belly. Let's take a walk over there and you will see it. It is now all embedded in a cluster inside of the belly, right here. They renamed it and called it the MFRL. Multifunctional Runway Light System. Only did Airbus remove all the lights from the nose landing gear, they also removed it from underneath the wing, the retractable landing lights. You'll see it, it's missing. Here's a nice picture for you of before and after. So this is not just on the XLR, there are some Airbus 320 families that have been modified to this standard. But the XLR comes equipped standard with this. The reasoning behind this is, first of all, reduced weight. You have less components. It's more cost effective to have one centralized unit. Now here's the downfall. If any of those lights fail, you have to change the whole unit itself. But these are modern day LEDs and these things pretty much last forever. I'm sure the engineers thought about this. And we're gonna walk over underneath the wing and we're gonna take a look at where the retractable landing lights used to be. Look, it's not there anymore. Other difference you're gonna see is within the flight deck, on the light panel, especially for the landing lights. There's no more retract option. I'm gonna go back to the nose landing gear because there are still more differences in here. Nose landing gear as well as the main landing gear have been completely redesigned. Beginning with the nose gear, it has been reinforced now. The XLR has now a higher towing capacity, or MTO, around 101 tons, as to comparison to the regular 321, about 97 tons. The tow fitting has also been redesigned. The aircraft has its own very special tow bar. It needed to be redesigned because the MTO in pounds is now 222,600 pounds for the XLR. The regular normal 321 tow bar can only handle 206,100 pounds. Now going back to the tow fitting itself on the aircraft, also has been redesigned. This thing right here, this is where it hooks up. Hardware that hold the tow fitting itself are now much stronger. The tow bracket is also redesigned a bit, and the angle of it is now facing down more towards the ground, parallel to the ground, as you can see, all to compensate for the weight of the aircraft. Okay, now let's redirect our focus to the main landing gear. Main landing gear has also been completely redesigned. One of the prominent features is the fact that the XLR tires and brakes cannot be interchanged. The XLR has its own unique tires and its own unique brakes. The XLR wheel will not physically install onto the 320 or the 321 Neo brakes. Because remember, the wheels slip onto the brakes assembly. Here's the caveat. It's very important to us maintenance. 320 or the 321 Neo's wheels will fit onto the XLR brakes. It will be loose even when the axle nut is torqued. This is where I say effectivity is very important. Make sure when you are pulling your parts, it is for your specific aircraft. Another big difference Airbus decided to do is to change the style of the strut. If you go take a look at any other Airbus besides the XLR, you will see two charging ports. The charging ports are for nitrogen. You're gonna see one up top and one on bottom. Why? Because it's a dual chambered strut, has a floating piston in it. On the XLR, it is a single stage pneumatic strut. They are still both considered oleo struts because you have air and oil, or nitrogen and oil. Older design was that you had to service the bottom as well as the top. The new one, you only have one single port, which is a single filling valve on the top. This is actually a really smart design, and it makes life much easier for us maintenance. Other thing they changed, which I didn't get a chance to film, is a new landing gear uplock. Why? Because the landing gear is redesigned, so you do need a new uplock mechanism. And here you go. I wanted to show you to the bottom of the shock strut or the landing gear so you see that there is no more charging port down there. Another thing I noticed is a slight redesign of a drain mast, and this is for the APU fuel shroud drain. It's just a different shape, but it's worth mentioning. Are basically the same thing, the CFM LEAP 1A. In previous videos, I thought they were going to uprate the engine for the thrust, but I was wrong, they didn't. Why? Because the capacity of the cabin had lessened. Not as many seats. Whatever they added to the fuel tank system, apparently the engine can compensate. Okay, here's another huge difference. Inboard flaps have been completely redesigned. Inner flaps went back to a single slotted flap system. I'll give you a visual. Take a look at the trailing edge inboard flap. Now you'll see the difference. That is the difference between a double slotted system and a single slotted system. See how the inboard flaps are partitioned? You don't have that on the XLR anymore. It's just one big solid piece, one big flap. I am not quite sure why they did this, maybe for better lift performance, but I'm not engineering, I'm just a mechanic. There is another huge redesign when it comes down to the fuselage, especially when it comes down to the aft fairing right here. It has been extended. Not only has it been extended, it also has been reinforced. Airbus reintroduced a new type of reinforcement. They call it fiber metal laminate, FML. Why did they do this? Because remember, there's a new fuel system, rear center tank. Stick with me here because we're going to talk about two things at the same time. In order to reinforce that portion of the fuselage, they need to come up with a new design. Imagine a sandwich. I'll multiply that sandwich on multiple layers. Sheet metal or aluminum with fiber layers, all sandwiched together. Actually, best of both worlds, very smart. But when it comes down to damage, let's say if it does encounter damage, for us maintenance, this becomes a whole new problem because you can't really inspect fiber layers through sheet metal. But I'm sure they have technology for this. Okay, the secondary portion of this, the reason why it was redesigned like this and reinforced is because of this right here, the rear center tank. This is what gives the XLR its unique feature of the extra long range, essentially built to become the next 757. Now, I'm not comparing the two aircraft, but that's the idea behind this. The concept is not much different than your regular ACTs, your additional center tanks. It just depends on the carrier's capability or their wants. The changes are not only happening within the fuselage, which is the structural changes, as well as a new fuel tank, but you also have changes within the flight deck, basically new push buttons. Also, you have new interfaces on the fuel page. The computer interface is also changing. There is a new enhanced fuel leveling sensor control unit. I can go deep dive in every single one of these systems, but I'm trying to keep it surface level because I don't want it to get too complicated. And on top of that, I have very little experience with this aircraft so far. It is a learning process. Here's another difference on the fuselage or the door configuration. Any other Airbus or some of the Airbuses that we have, that door is an active door, and right below it, you see that little box? That used to be a slide. Guess what? On the XLR, that's not needed. Now that is a plug. That is no longer an active door. Why? Because of the interior configuration and how the seats are. The capacity of the aircraft has changed. The configuration of where the seats are has changed. Now there are two overwing exit hatches that are active instead of one. This is in comparison to the Neo. A reminder, every single airline will configure their interior differently. You might see a different configuration of doors and how everything is established. This is how my airline does it. Whatever the airlines want, they will order from the manufacturer, and the manufacturer will accommodate to their specific needs. And there you go. Those are the two active overwing hatches now. In comparison to the Neo, only one of ours is active. When we walk back into the aft fuselage or the tail section, the one noticeable difference that you are going to see is the drain mast, which we have talked about in previous videos. So please feel free to reference those videos to understand what all those drain masts are. They are not only on the XLR, they are also on some of our Neos. They're basically an enhanced drain system for the APU. I'm doing my little walk around over here, and another significant change that has occurred is to the flight control systems, especially to the rudder. It is no longer cable controlled. Well, it was never really cable controlled. It still went to servos, but right now on the XLR, they completely got rid of the cables. It's a pure electric rudder. At least that's what they call it. Let me explain this in a very simple way. Hydraulics are still active, still have green, blue, and yellow. Cable, the actual physical cable that goes to the rudder servo control is gone. Now there's a backup electrical module in case there was a failure. Not only that, they also decided to get rid of some of the computers. ELAC 1 and ELAC 2 are still there. SEC 1 and SEC 2 are still there. Here's the big difference. They got rid of SEC 3, FAC 1, and FAC 2. Modification came in with new computer system that they integrated with. XLR flight control system introduces a new electrical rudder to the 320 family instead of the mechanical rudder. And once again, it's not really mechanical, it still goes to servos. Components are 2 ELAC computers, 2 SEC computers, 1 backup control module, 2 flight control data connectors, which is the new thing right there I'm talking about, and 2 flight management guidance computer enhanced. Added portion that I was talking about is called the BCM, Backup Control Module. What does this mean? The ELAC's operation is going to control the ailerons, elevators, the THS, which is the trimble horizontal stabilizer, and the rudder, and the 2 SEC controllers are going to operate the roll, spoiler, and rudder. They're all working together, by the way. Let's say in case of complete loss of rudder control by the two ELACs, the SEX, the BCM provides yaw control. It receives independent input from a different controller. The redundancy is still there, guys, so don't worry about this. They just reorganized it. Why did they do this? To get rid of more components. Try to save weight on the aircraft. Okay, back to the overhead panel. Notice the light panel. Remember I mentioned that on the landing lights, the retract option is gone. Now you simply have on and off. The majority of the push buttons and the knobs are pretty much similar on this aircraft, but there's a small little addition right there. I'm pointing to it. It's on the air conditioning panel, and the pilots now get foot warmers. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's just an option. They can opt out of that one. As you can see, majority of the push buttons are pretty much the same. The fuel panel and the electrical and the hydraulic panel, as well as the fire panel, it's all standard. This is what makes it so easy for the Airbus 320 family and the cross-training. Been in one Airbus 320 family, you've been in all of them. Few modifications here and there as the aircraft evolves. Okay, here's another addition. Remember when I told you there's a new fuel tank, the rear center tank? There's your new push buttons for the pumps to correspond to the tank. Also being able to go from automatic mode to manual mode. That's for transferring fuel purposes. Right above that, you have the additional center tank push buttons. Attention down to the pedestal, and you're going to see a brand new communication system. Airbus decided to integrate three components into one, called the Digital Radio Audio Integrated Management System, DRAIMS for short. Some of our brand new Neos also have this, but the XLR comes standard with this. Well, the one thing they did is they took away the TCAS and the transponder panel. See that blank panel right below? That's where it used to live. Also took away the ACP and the RMP, the radio management panel and the audio control panel. They integrated all of those three components into one unit. Another interesting redesign or choice of design changed the black boxes. Having two separate boxes for the CVR and the FDR, now they combine both into one. Now they call it the Combined Voice Data Recorder. Very interesting redesign. You know, usually you'll have the black boxes in the back of the airplane, right? Any other Airbus, both of them are in the back. XLR, they put one in the back and one in the forward E&E compartment. Still two of them. They're a combined unit. A small little cluster of circuit breakers that I noticed. Again, I'm still learning on this airplane, but you can see everything is pretty much labeled and clear. It's mostly related to the fuel system. The rest of the overhead panel with the circuit breakers looks pretty identical, and as well as the back panel behind the FO side. That also looks identical. I'm sure they added new circuit breakers for related systems, or maybe rearranged a few things. The more I work on this, the more I'll learn about it. Okay, now let's go look at what everybody wants to see, the interior. It's completely different. Actually added a nice little surveillance camera. It's only pointing straight to the first class. Rearranged where they put the galley carts, and they actually angled some of them. Look, it's pretty interesting design. They got new ovens, and there's an espresso machine, instead of the two standard coffee makers. Let's take a closer look at these angled food carts or the galley carts, assuming they angled it to optimize to give more space inside the galley. Pretty clever design. These are the brand new seats. They are made by Collins. I'm not even gonna lie to you. These things are so complicated and very difficult to work on, but they look pretty. It's supposed to have a privacy door, which the FAA has not approved yet, but I believe it's going to get approved in late March. So those sliding doors will operate later on, but right now they're deactivated. Interesting fact about these seats that I learned. Do you see that shoulder harness? Well, that thing is actually built in with a little squib inside. Well, down at the bottom where the actual initial reel is. In case of 16G impact, sudden 16G jolt, squib will go off and it will retract that seatbelt and pull the passenger into the seat. The whole point of the XLR is to slowly get rid of our T model fleet, our transcontinental models, which I've shown to you guys many times before. I believe they're going to go one for one. So one XLR we get, we're going to get rid of a T model. We'll convert it back into our standard Oasis model. I believe this is premium economy or business flagship. I can't even remember the names on these things. Basically the next section over. These seats are also very nice.
get out? All right, guys.
Going back to the next section right here, and you're gonna see the exit hatches, the overwing exit hatches. There they are. I just wanted to show you guys what it looks like from the inside. Forgot, there's another really big change, and it's got to do with the potable water system. Chapter 38, obviously. So your standard Airbuses, like any 320, 321, 319s even, there's only one water tank. The XLR has two water tanks, a forward water tank and an aft water tank. This, well, it's for obvious reasons. XLR, extra long range, flying over the big pond, you're gonna need more water. The aft water tank it's in its standard position in the aft cargo, behind the most aft portion behind the wall. I've shown you that before. The forward one is behind the wall in the forward cargo pit. Also reconfigured some of the lavatories. Having two lavatories in the back, now they have three. Two on the left, one on the right. The aft galley doesn't look much different, but they did install ovens back here, but almost everything else looks identical. Another thing that's been added, which I didn't get to record because the gear doors were not down, within the main landing gear, they installed new components, additional fire detection units. The reasoning behind this is because the main landing gear is in very close proximity to the center tank and the rear center tank. If there's any kind of overheat, that will pick it up. That is pretty much all I know about the differences between the Neos, the 321s, and the brand new XLR. And a nice little look at the first class lavatory. Obviously, it's just slightly bigger. And I promise you, the more I learn about this airplane, I will share the knowledge with you. But this is as much as I know so far. Before we leave, we got to play with the lights, see how the mood lighting is. I hope you guys enjoyed this. All right, let's keep on going. We got more adventure ahead of us. Has begun, and of course we get another tire change in the rain. But let's go. Basically the same thing, guys. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I think at this point, all of you can change a 321 wheel assembly. Everything goes back in reverse. Obviously, I'm not showing every single step of the job here, but you've seen it before. We got everything buttoned up, operated the brake fans, no delay, no problem. Airplane went out. I think I'm about to feel some jet blast here. Here we go. Too close for missiles. Switching the guns. Haven't done that in a while. It's always a joy for me to watch these beautiful machines fly. It's absolutely extraordinary. Stick around though, you're gonna see two very special airplanes later on in this video. But as always, we go back to the airplanes. Toilets again. I think this episode is literally turning into toilets and tires.
Was it nice of them to not say anything?
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. I just love how they don't follow the instructions. You know, it says don't throw paper towels in there. Do me a favor, can you grab me another one of those bags right there? Yeah, one more, please, if you don't mind. Right there, yeah, the one I put on the seat right there. Yeah. Be an airplane mechanic, they said. It'd be fun, they said. 20 years, junior?
Well, why'd you get this job? They sent you out on this one.
That's funny.
Who's working tonight?
Me, apparently. All right. Let's see. No, we'll get it out. It's right there. I can feel it.
Hey, don't think I haven't fished minis out the toilet before.
I believe you.
Not my greatest moment. So it's gotta be done.
Somebody got to do it.
Well, I just want my son to be a plumber. He makes a ton of money.
Oh, it smells horrible. That smells horrible. Oh, that smells horrible. Oh.
Yes, that's what they say about being a flight attendant. So glamorous,
I think I got it all. Let's flush. Let's see what happens. Come on, flush for me. Woo! Yeah! All right, that's done. No, now that I think about it, maybe I should have said viewer discretion is advised before I started showing this. But you know what? It's all right. If I gotta suffer, you gotta suffer. Just joking, guys. But yeah, you know, it's part of the job. You know, it is what it is. You gotta deal with it. I'm just glad it wasn't anything worse, just a clog. Gave it a few more flushes, make sure everything's okay, cleaned up after myself, and that's about it. Sign off the logbook, and on she goes. And don't worry, the cleaning crew was standing also right behind me, so as soon as I'm done here, they're gonna come in here and clean it once again and sanitize everything. December was finally over. We went through the New Year's. Most of us worked through the holidays. We were all just thankful the rain stopped and the sun came out. As I said, the schedule slows down even more in the beginning 3 months of the year. But the airplanes are still flying. We are still staying busy. I really hope every single one of you had a good year. I hope you welcomed 2026 with open arms. I wish you guys nothing but success in this new year. And most of all, happiness and health. Mid-span shrouds, that's what's making the noise. This is a CFM 56-5B. Low RPMs, or when the engine is just milling like this, the blades become loose and the mid-span shrouds hit each other, making that noise. At high RPM, those blades lock up and you won't hear that noise. The whole purpose behind mid-span shrouds is to reduce vibration and prevent twisting of the blade from aerodynamic forces. Usually when there's high engine vibration, we will do blade lubes, and mid-span shrouds is one of the things we also re-lubricate. But anyway, that's a quick little short example or explanation for that. what happens when I speak too soon? The rain came back. Oh my goodness, the sound of that is just creepy. That used to be Terminal 5. They say they're gonna rebuild it within 2 years. See about that. This is one of our beautiful 737 Maxes, and it's equipped with its sister engine, the LEAP, the CFM LEAP 1B. It really is a beautiful airplane. Oh, speaking of beautiful airplanes, and the special one I was going to show you guys, here we go. Check this out. You're going to enjoy this. Yep, that's exactly what you think it is. That's the E4B, National Airborne Operations Center, better known as Night Watch, or its nickname, the Doomsday Airplane. It's basically a flying command center. This is the first time I've ever seen it, and I think that was the very first time it was in LAX. Nobody had any idea what it was doing here. I'm glad I got to catch it. It's actually an incredible airplane, but at the same time, it's terrifying, just because of what it's capable of doing. It had an escort too, check this out. was very special to see those airplanes. I'm glad I got to catch them. But we got to get back to work. We got a 737 MAX that came in, and we had to do a quick little transit check, and I had to go check the APU oil. Your standard APU, guys, nothing special here. I've shown you guys the APU on the 321s. It's almost identical. Basically a small turbine engine providing electricity and pneumatics. And this is why I'm here, just to check the oil. Right there, I needed to physically check the oil. I haven't repositioned an airplane in quite some time because that responsibility has been reallocated to the hangar staff. But we got to do it on this one right here. I'm gonna make this a time lapse because there was a colleague sitting right next to me and we were having a conversation. So obviously I'm not gonna post that. Enjoy the time lapse. We had to actually reposition this thing all the way to the remote side. We are coming to the end of our adventure, ladies and gentlemen. I can't thank you all enough for being here, showing your love, your support, your kind words. It truly means the world to me. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm sorry it took me so long to get back to this, but I assure you, I'm back. Some parting words for you on this adventure. Whatever you're going through in life, as hard as it may seem, believe it or not, it happens for a reason, and it's for you. It's for you to learn. One thing I'm going to promise you, it's not going to last forever. It will pass. Thank you all, Thank you for being for this adventure, and I will see you on the next one. Stig, signing out. Later.